What if the Christmas movie you remember as pure childhood fun was hiding a much darker story behind the laughter? Home Alone made Macaulay Culkin a global phenomenon, turned two burglars into comedy legends, and created moments millions still replay every December. But after the cameras stopped, the cast went in dramatically different directions: sudden fame, quiet disappearances, remarkable reinventions, and losses that make some scenes feel completely different today. This is what happened to the stars of Home Alone after that unforgettable Christmas ended. Joe Pesci was 47 when he portrayed Harry Lime, and I think the performance works because Pesci refuses to acknowledge that he is playing inside a children's comedy. Harry is genuinely angry, threatening, and convinced of his own competence, which gives the slapstick something solid to destroy. A lesser actor might have exaggerated the villainy from the beginning, but Pesci treats Harry's frustrations seriously. That choice makes every humiliation funnier. The burns, falls, traps, and escalating physical punishment work, because Harry keeps trying to recover his dignity, as though the situation could still be brought under control. Pesci's timing is also far more precise than the apparent chaos suggests. He knows exactly when to hold a reaction, when to explode, and when to let disbelief register before the next disaster arrives. What I find especially effective is the contrast between his established tough guy screen presence and the complete physical helplessness Kevin eventually forces upon him. In 2026, Joe Pesci is 83. After Home Alone, he continued an acclaimed film career before becoming increasingly selective about acting, returning only when projects interested him rather than maintaining constant visibility. For me, Harry's legacy proves how much serious acting can strengthen broad comedy. Pesci never treats the character as disposable, because the film needs Harry to feel dangerous before Kevin can defeat him. That commitment turns cartoon violence into comic suspense. Harry remains memorable, not simply because he suffers spectacularly, but because Pesci makes him look genuinely offended that the universe would allow a 10-year-old to destroy his authority. Daniel Stern was 33 when he portrayed Marv Merchants, and the genius of the performance is how completely he commits to physical humiliation without ever losing the character underneath it. Marv is slower, more gullible, and far less controlled than Harry, but Stern does not simply play stupidity. He gives Marv an almost childlike confusion whenever the world punishes him, as though each new injury is genuinely impossible to understand. That innocence makes the violence funnier. His body becomes part of the comedy, the stretched reactions, delayed realizations, sudden collapses. But the most memorable instrument is his voice. Stern's screams have rhythm, escalation, and personality. The famous tarantula reaction works because it feels simultaneously ridiculous and absolutely sincere. He never stands outside the joke and signals that he knows it is funny. That complete belief is what turns exaggerated slapstick into something audiences still anticipate decades later. In 2026, Daniel Stern is 69. After Home Alone, he continued working across acting, directing, writing, and narration, proving that his career extended far beyond one endlessly injured burglar. Yet Marv remains one of his most recognizable creations, because Stern understood a basic rule of physical comedy. Pain is funniest when the character experiencing it believes the disaster is completely real. Harry fights to preserve dignity. Marv seems shocked that dignity was ever an option. That difference gives the Wet Bandits their perfect balance. Stern turns suffering into musical timing, and every December audiences somehow laugh again, even though they already know exactly which trap is coming next. Catherine O'Hara was 36 when she portrayed Kate McCallister, and her performance is one of the main reasons Home Alone survives as something more emotional than a feature-length collection of traps. Kate begins the film overwhelmed, distracted, and imperfect, which is important because O'Hara never asks us to see her as an idealized mother. She is frustrated with Kevin. She loses patience, She participates in the household chaos that eventually leaves him behind. Once she realizes what has happened, however, O'Hara transforms that ordinary parental irritation into genuine terror and guilt. The transition is powerful because she does not suddenly become melodramatic. Even in panic, her comic instincts remain present, allowing absurd airport negotiations and desperate travel arrangements to stay funny without weakening the emotional stakes. What gives the role unusual weight is that Kate's journey mirrors Kevin's from the opposite direction. He learns what family means by losing them temporarily, while she learns how terrifyingly fragile ordinary family routines can be. In 2026, Catherine O'Hara is 72. After Home Alone, she continued building an extraordinary career across film and television, repeatedly proving her ability to combine eccentric comedy with precise emotional truth. Looking back, Kate feels like an early example of that skill. O'Hara can make panic funny without making motherhood trivial, and she can make guilt painful without turning the film heavy. The reunion with Kevin works because she has earned it through exhaustion rather than speeches. Beneath all the slapstick, Kate gives Home Alone its emotional destination. The realization that getting home matters because someone is waiting there. John Hurd was 45 when he portrayed Peter McCallister, and the restraint he brings to the role is exactly what the McCallister family needs. Peter is surrounded by children, luggage, arguments, schedules, and escalating chaos. Yet Hurd rarely tries to compete with the film's louder personalities. Instead, he plays the father as a recognizable adult, who is constantly managing too many things at once. That choice matters, because Kevin's abandonment would feel emotionally cruel if his parents seemed careless by nature. Hurd makes Peter distracted rather than indifferent. When the truth finally reaches him, the shift in his expression communicates guilt without requiring a dramatic breakdown. His serious dramatic background also helps ground the family scenes. Peter feels like someone with responsibilities outside the frame, which makes the household seem more like a real family, temporarily overwhelmed by circumstances than a collection of sitcom stereotypes. Hurd's quietness becomes particularly valuable beside O'Hara's more active panic. The two performances express the same fear through different emotional temperatures. John Hurd passed away in 2017 at the age of 71. He continued working steadily across film and television for decades, building a career filled with roles far more intense and complicated than Peter McCallister. Rewatching Home Alone after his death gives the performance an unexpected tenderness. Peter is not the film's emotional centerpiece, yet Hurd provides the stability that makes the family worth missing. His contribution is easy to overlook, precisely because it is so controlled. He reminds us that not every parent expresses fear through dramatic gestures. Sometimes the weight appears in a quieter realization, the moment an ordinary mistake suddenly becomes the worst thing imaginable. Devin Ratray was only 13 when he portrayed Buzz McCallister. And what makes Buzz so effective is how accurately he captures the casual cruelty of an older sibling who has discovered that confidence itself can be a weapon. Ratray does not play Buzz like a conventional villain. He plays him like a teenager who has learned exactly which buttons to push, because he has spent years living beside Kevin. The sarcasm, territorial behavior, and exaggerated superiority all feel familiar rather than invented for the movie. That realism is crucial because Kevin needs someone inside the family to rebel against, before being left alone can initially feel like freedom. Ratray also gives Buzz just enough insecurity beneath the swagger to prevent him from becoming completely hateful. His possessions, stories, and bravado feel like part of a private teenage mythology he uses to make himself look larger inside a crowded household. That makes Buzz irritating in a way that feels almost documentary to anyone who grew up with siblings. In 2026, Devin Ratray is 49. He continued acting after Home Alone and built a long career as a character performer, while Buzz remained the role audiences instantly associated with him. The character's longevity comes from specificity. Buzz is not simply the mean brother, he is the brother who knows the family hierarchy and enjoys using it while he still can. Watching him now often produces a strange kind of nostalgia, because the behavior that once seemed unbearable becomes recognizable as part of childhood itself. Rattray captured the uncomfortable truth that family affection and family cruelty can sometimes live inside the same bedroom hallway. Hilary Wolf was 13 when she portrayed Kevin McCallister, and her contribution is a good example of how smaller performances can make a fictional family feel convincingly crowded. Megan does not receive a major emotional arc, but Wolf gives her the exact rhythm of an older sibling who has lived inside this chaos long enough to respond with practiced irritation. Her eye rolls, dry delivery, and impatient reactions create history without exposition. You believe Megan has endured Kevin, Buzz, travel disasters, and family arguments many times before the movie begins. That kind of texture matters, because Home Alone depends on the audience accepting the McCallisters as a family large enough to accidentally lose track of one child. Wolf helps sell that illusion by behaving as though none of this household madness is particularly new. She never pushes for attention, which allows Megan to feel like one member of a genuinely oversized family, rather than a supporting character waiting for a line. In 2026, Hilary Wolf is 49. Her life after acting took one of the most unusual paths among the young Home Alone cast members. She stepped away from film and pursued judo at an elite competitive level. That later career makes Megan feel like a remarkably brief snapshot of someone whose future moved in a completely different direction. There is something appealing about that contrast. Wolf did not remain trapped inside the identity of a child performer. The movie became one chapter, rather than the definition of her life. Megan endures because the performance does exactly what a supporting family role should do. She adds familiarity, friction, and the sense that Kevin's house existed long before the audience arrived. Angela Goethals was 13 when she portrayed Linny McCallister, and her performance stands out through understatement. Linny has relatively little screen time, yet Goethals gives her a believable mixture of impatience and sibling concern that helps deepen the McCallister family dynamic. She does not treat Kevin as precious, simply because the audience eventually will. To Linny, he is still the younger brother capable of being irritating, dramatic, and exhausting. That honesty makes the later absence more meaningful. The film's emotional idea, that people often understand the value of family only when the familiar noise disappears, works better because the siblings initially behave like actual siblings rather than miniature saints. Goethals keeps every reaction grounded. Even when a line becomes thematically important in retrospect, she delivers it casually, which is exactly why it feels truthful. Linny is not predicting a lesson, she is simply speaking from inside an ordinary family argument that later acquires more meaning than anyone expected. In 2026, Angela Goethals is 49. After Home Alone, she continued working across film, television, and theater, often in roles that benefited from the same understated quality visible here. Linny remains a small but necessary piece of the movie's emotional architecture. Goethals understands that family affection is rarely expressed cleanly, especially between siblings. Irritation can coexist with love, and cruel little remarks can disappear the moment genuine fear enters the room. That contradiction is part of what makes Home Alone's family feel real. Linny reminds us that sometimes the people who annoy us most are also the people whose absence makes a house suddenly feel wrong. Michael C. Morona was 13 when he portrayed Jeff McCallister, and his strength in the film comes from behaving like someone who has already learned to survive family chaos by staying half a step outside it. Jeff rarely controls a scene, but Morona's dry reactions add texture to the crowded household. He watches, comments, and absorbs the noise with the resigned familiarity of a teenager who knows another argument will probably begin before breakfast is finished. That low-key presence becomes valuable because Home Alone contains so many heightened performances. Jeff helps convince us that there are ordinary people inside this extraordinary Christmas disaster. Marana never tries to steal attention from Kevin, Buzz, or the adults, and that restraint makes his behavior feel more like real family observation than scripted comedy. His role is small, but the movie would feel slightly less lived in without characters like Jeff filling the edges of the frame. In 2026, Michael C. Marona is 49. After Home Alone, he became especially familiar to another generation through the adventures of Pete and Pete, before later moving behind the camera into production work. That career path gives his early appearance an interesting symmetry. Someone who once occupied the background of a massive film eventually became involved in the practical work required to build screen worlds for others. Jeff's legacy is not about a famous speech or iconic gag. It is about credibility. Marona helps make the McCallister household feel too crowded to manage, and therefore makes the central mistake believable. Sometimes, supporting actors do their best work by making the story around them feel more real. Kieran Culkin was only 8 when he portrayed Fuller McCallister, and the character demonstrates how little screen time a child actor needs when the details are specific enough. Fuller is remembered through oversized glasses, Pesci, mischievous expressions, and the running fear that sharing a bed with him will become a disaster. Culkin hardly needs dialogue because his face already communicates that he understands the joke and enjoys the reputation attached to it. That subtle mischievousness prevents Fuller from feeling like a prop. He seems like a real younger cousin who has discovered that even a slightly embarrassing family trait can become a form of power if everyone talks about it enough. What is especially fascinating now is seeing how comfortable Culkin already appears in front of the camera. The performance is tiny, but there is an instinctive awareness in his reactions that becomes much more noticeable when viewed alongside the actor he eventually became. In 2026, Kieran Culkin is 44. After beginning as part of the Home Alone ensemble, he grew into a critically acclaimed actor with a screen identity entirely separate from both Fuller and his famous older brother. That evolution makes this early role one of the film's most enjoyable time capsules. Audiences are watching a performer before anyone could know how much range would eventually emerge. Fuller remains memorable because Culkin proves that presence is not measured by dialogue. A few glances, a pair of glasses, and one perfectly established family joke are enough to make the character feel permanently attached to Christmas movie history. Roberts Blossom was 66 when he portrayed Old Man Marley, and his performance quietly transforms Home Alone from a clever children's comedy into something more emotionally mature. Blossom barely needs to speak because his face, silence, and physical presence allow childhood imagination to turn an ordinary neighbor into something monstrous. The brilliance comes later, when the exact same face becomes gentle. Blossom does not dramatically reinvent the character. He simply allows Kevin and the audience to look properly for the first time. The church scene is the emotional center of that transformation. His measured delivery and fragile hesitation give Marley's estrangement from his son a sadness completely different from the exaggerated chaos elsewhere in the movie. More importantly, the conversation allows Kevin to see that adults can also be frightened, lonely, and unsure how to repair what they have broken. Blossom gives the film its deepest expression of forgiveness without ever making the scene sentimental. Roberts Blossom passed away in 2011 at the age of 87. His career included many distinctive film and television roles, but Marley remains unusually powerful because the performance changes meaning as viewers grow older. Children may first understand Kevin's fear. Adults are more likely to recognize Marley's regret. That shift is part of the character's lasting strength. Blossom turns the supposed monster next door into the person carrying the movie's most mature wound. The final reunion with his family works because the church scene makes reconciliation feel difficult, rather than automatic. Marley reminds us that sometimes fear is not about danger. Sometimes it is the possibility of being rejected by someone we still love. John Candy was 40 when he portrayed Gus Polinski, and his brief appearance proves how completely warmth can reshape a supporting role. Gus could have been nothing more than a convenient plot device, the eccentric stranger who gets Kate closer to home. Candy refuses to treat him that way. He gives the character awkward pride, excessive friendliness, and the wonderful confidence of a man who assumes everyone should already know the polka king of the Midwest. Yet underneath the comedy is genuine compassion. Gus sees a distressed stranger and offers what he has, even though what he has happens to be a crowded ride with a polka band. Candy's instinct is crucial here because he never mocks Kate's fear. His humor creates relief around her desperation rather than competing with it. The result is one of the movie's gentlest stretches, where rescue comes not from money or planning, but from the kindness of people who have no obligation to help. John Candy passed away in 1994, at only 43 years old. His sudden death cut short a career that still seemed full of possibility, and that knowledge gives Gus an added tenderness today. Candy was already beloved for making large comic personalities feel emotionally generous, and this cameo concentrates that gift into only a few scenes. Gus remains memorable because he offers Kate something the entire movie is ultimately about: a way home. Candy turns an absurd character into a source of comfort, reminding us that sometimes the person who changes a terrible day is simply the stranger willing to make room beside them. Alan Wilder's appearance as Marley's estranged son is almost entirely wordless, yet the performance carries one of Home Alone's most important emotional conclusions. The character arrives only briefly, which means Wilder has no dialogue-heavy scene available to explain years of distance, resentment, or regret. Everything must be communicated through the moment itself. That limitation becomes the scene's strength. After a movie filled with screaming, arguing, traps, travel disasters, and frantic movement, this reunion is allowed to remain quiet. Wilder's cautious expression suggests that reconciliation is not effortless. There is history in the hesitation, and that makes the eventual embrace far more convincing than an emotional speech would have been. His presence also completes the lesson Kevin learns from Marley in the church. Someone eventually has to risk rejection if a broken relationship is ever going to change. Wilder's restraint allows the audience to fill in the years that the film never shows. In 2026, Alan Wilder is 73. He built a quiet acting career beyond this short appearance. Yet many Home Alone viewers remember him almost entirely through that Christmas morning doorway. That is a remarkable example of how screen time and emotional impact are not always connected. Marley's son does not need a full character arc because the audience has already heard the pain from the other side. Wilder simply has to make the first step toward forgiveness feel real. His brief performance becomes the answer to one of the film's deepest questions: whether a family damaged by pride can still choose to come home. Sometimes one silent entrance is enough. Larry Hankin was a seasoned character actor when he portrayed the drugstore clerk, and the scene works because he reacts to Kevin as though he has wandered into an ordinary day rather than a Christmas adventure. That grounding is exactly what makes the exchange so funny. Kevin has already begun imagining himself as an independent adult, capable of shopping, protecting a house, and surviving without his family. But one simple question about a toothbrush suddenly destroys the fantasy. Hankin does not exaggerate the clerk's confusion. He simply looks at this unusually nervous child with the mild suspicion any adult might have, allowing Culkin's panic to generate the comedy. It is a small performance built almost entirely on timing and observation. What makes Hankin valuable is his refusal to behave like the film knows Kevin is the hero. To the clerk, Kevin is just a strange kid creating an awkward situation during a routine shift. and that perspective briefly reconnects the movie's fantasy to ordinary reality. In 2026, Larry Hankin is 86. Across decades of film and television, he became one of those character actors whose face audiences recognize even when they cannot immediately place the name. His Home Alone appearance is a perfect example of why that kind of performer matters. The scene lasts only moments, yet Hankin gives it a specific comic texture that survives in memory. He proves that a beloved movie is not built only from leading actors and major emotional scenes. Sometimes the world becomes convincing because a supporting performer delivers one puzzled look exactly right and lets the star do everything else around it. Macaulay Culkin was only 10 when he portrayed Kevin McCallister, and I think the remarkable thing about the performance is how completely he carries a film built around a child without ever making Kevin feel artificially mature. Culkin understands that Kevin's confidence is partly imagination. He wants to believe he can handle everything alone, but fear keeps leaking through the performance in small, believable ways. That balance is what gives the comedy emotional weight. The traps are entertaining because Kevin looks clever, yet the quieter scenes work because Culkin still reminds us that this is a boy who has been left behind. His expressions can move from arrogance to panic almost instantly, and that unpredictability makes the character feel genuinely young. What I admire most is that Culkin never asks the audience to see Kevin as simply adorable. He can be selfish, rude, frightened, resourceful, and deeply lonely, sometimes within the same scene. In 2026, Macaulay Culkin is 46. After childhood fame arrived with extraordinary intensity, he stepped away from acting for years before eventually returning on his own terms, through selective roles, creative projects, and a much more controlled public life. For me, that later journey gives Kevin an additional meaning today. Culkin created a child who discovers independence, while the actor himself eventually had to learn how to build an identity beyond the image the world had created for him. Kevin endures because Culkin made childhood courage imperfect. He is brave not because he stops being afraid, but because he keeps functioning while fear is still there. The traps, screams, and Christmas chaos still make us laugh, but time has given Home Alone another meaning. Some of the faces we remember are now gone, while others grew far beyond the roles that first introduced them to millions. Yet every December, the McCallister house fills again. Kevin is 10 years old once more, and those familiar characters return exactly as we remember them. Thank you for joining After the Spotlight, where we remember the stars behind the classics, the lives they lived after the cameras stopped, and the performances that time could never erase.